He's old, he's cranky, his back hurts, and he can't remember where he put his car keys. But his mother still loves him. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. Folks, we live in a dangerous world, and I want you to be able to protect and defend the ones you love. And that's why I have this show. It's my way of empowering you to accomplish one of your primary jobs in life. You are a protector and a defender. All right, listeners, before we get too far into the show, don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Trinity Training and Security, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range. Without our sponsors, this show wouldn't be on the air, so we thank you all. And now I'd like to welcome Mike Willis to the show. He's the National Training and Programs Director for the United States Deputy Sheriff's Association. Mike, welcome to the Home Defense Show today.
Great being here, Skip.
Mike, why don't you start by give us like a 30-second bio and then tell us what the United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is all about.
Yeah, Skip. I was formerly a full-time law enforcement officer. I was a police officer, then spent most of my time as a sheriff's deputy and trainer. But for the last 27 years, I have been nationally training city, county, state, and federal law enforcement officers in tactics, and mostly things like active shooter response, felony high-risk car stops, hand-to-hand combat. Some of the classes I do, just working with the men and women of law enforcement nationwide as a trainer, and also present a lot of conferences about, once again, trying to keep officers alive is kind of our main focus with our organization.
Well, I think that's a pretty good focus, especially if you're a police officer, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, that sounds fantastic. And I think that's aligned pretty closely with what we want to talk about today. In the news, boy, the last week or so, it's been wall-to-wall ICE shooting and, protests, demonstrations, terrorism, whatever you want to call it, depending on who's reporting it. They call it something different. But what the woman's name, I believe, was Renee Good, and she was this is my understanding. She was impeding law enforcement, and she was uncooperative. She was resisting and obstructing, and as a result, she was shot by an ICE agent, and she died at the scene. There's lots of footage on this out there, not always, the best angles, but hey, it is what it is, and you got to work with what you have out there. What is your understanding of what exactly happened? Because I think everybody's a little confused right now.
I've done my best to try to see every bit of video and information I can about this, because there's so much rhetoric and misinformation out there. Basically, you had a situation where, and what she was, just truth be told, it's always a tragic event, but she was a protester. She was driving around protesting ICE agents and their activities. She'd been at several locations where they'd been at, cutting them. She basically drove in front of traffic to cut their convoy off, honking her horn. Basically, and she'd been done this at other locations to what my understanding of this, but ICE agents went to, truth be told, they went to arrest her and for obstruction, and they were doing a lawful arrest. Once again, people can argue their day in court, but they felt she was obstructing and impeding them. They went to arrest her. She would not get out of the vehicle. And then at a point in time, she hit reverse and then went forward. At that time, there was an ICE officer who was in front of the vehicle. As she went forward, it did bump him. There's no question about it, at which time he felt that he was in danger, which a vehicle is a deadly weapon. He fired his weapon and she was killed. The big thing that I always look at this is they had a legal reason to do what they're doing under federal law. You can not like what ICE are doing, but they're following federal law at this time. They had a legal reason to be arresting her. What I always have to look at this is kind of like we did in SWAT, we do at our training now, is we, after the fact, we go, what can we do to make things better? And the one thing that jumps out at me glaringly is, and I don't like playing second Monday morning quarterback, and I wasn't there, but I implore officers in this situation to not put themselves in a position where you could get hit by a vehicle. That is the only thing that, and I'm not saying his actions are wrong, because I do not believe that. People are responsible for their actions. And in this case, she was responsible for actions, but officers need to avoid ever putting themselves in a position where they could get hit by a moving vehicle. That's kind of my take on it. But once again, I believe it is a justified shooting. It will be cleared. And I think the irresponsible rhetoric of calling him a murderer and such like that is out of hand. So
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Mike, I agree with pretty much everything that you've just said there. Um, maybe there's his tactics of stepping in front of a hostile actor, and I would consider her a hostile actor because she's definitely was purposely obstructing, their law enforcement activities. Um, and this particular ICE agent, he had been drugged, I believe, back in June of last year, about 300 feet. That's the reports that I'm getting. But hey, there's no doubt in my mind that this woman was in the act of breaking the law. This is, I'm not a law enforcement officer, okay, but I would find it very difficult when people are taunting me to do something, because I listened to, both these women taunting them and saying, "What are you gonna do, big boy? Go have some lunch," or something like that. I would I would have trouble, I guess, isolating my feelings from that and not being offended. But that's something that police officers have to be good at, isn't it?
it is, and it is difficult. We're all human, but you really have to remove yourself, kind of tell yourself it's the uniform that they hate. Try to not take it personal, and I think they use great restraint. My understanding is they'd done this at other locations. They had not. They're giving them a lot of leeway, but at a point in time, they decided enough's enough. We're making an arrest, and you're right. And this officer was dragged in a prior event, which once again always concerns me about some of the tactical situations. But and because of that, he could also justify his shooting in fear that the officers who were trying to get her out of the car were in danger as well. You can use deadly force to protect yourself or another from death or great bodily harm. But it's one of those things, like I said, I always look at after the fact, what can we do different? And I really implore law enforcement officers to stop putting themselves in front of a vehicle that still has the ability to go mobile. And 2018, just to kind of a side note, we lost a female officer. Her name was Amy Caprio in Baltimore County Police Department, Maryland, where she stepped out of her vehicle, stepped in front of a car with her gun drawn, and a suspect accelerated and hit and killed her. It's not a tactic we should be using. Even if we shoot that driver, even if we shoot the engine block, a vehicle's momentum is not going to stop, and it puts us in danger. So, that comes back to kind of along with what you're saying. We have to not let our emotions get the best of us, which sometimes messes up our tactical response. Always keep ourselves out of the way of harm's way as well.
Yeah, yeah. A friend of mine, he's a Krav Maga instructor. He always says, "Your ego is not your amigo," and I think
Well
he's,
said.
yeah, he's right. I mean, I work private security, and when people get up in your face like that, it's very difficult to not take it personally, and let your emotions get the best of you. But at times like that, when it's happening, it's vitally important that you do control your emotions and not let that happen. I mean, I don't think that's why this whole altercation happened. I think these two women were out doing, and they did exactly what they intended to do. They just didn't intend to get shot, is all. But another thing I wanted to talk about was the time frame when these things happen, I believe the officer fired 3 rounds. The details are sketchy, but the time frame was fairly compressed. Talk about how you have to deal with the time frame, because these are pretty compressed time frames that we're talking about, I think.
Yeah, I mean, things happen fast, and that's why I always preface my comments of thinking tactically after the fact that I wasn't there. He might not have meant to be in front of that vehicle, so I don't like throwing stones. But if we can avoid that, we need to, because things do happen fast. She backed up, accelerated, made contact with him. The officer actually drew his weapon as that was happening. I thought there was 2 rounds, could have been 3. It's one of those that's it's hard to say. My understanding was a headshot that killed the female driver, and then from there, then you've got a crime scene. You've got to work that. Obviously, remove that officer from it. Start questioning witnesses. It's all very quick, and it shows how things can escalate very rapidly. I think one of the things that jumped out at me about this female who was killed and her partner, they think this is some kind of game, and this has been encouraged, in my opinion, irresponsibly by people of power, telling people to put their bodies in the line. Like this is some kind of game. These are law enforcement officers doing a lawful act. And you can argue your day in court. You can contact your congressman if you don't like the way the laws are, but they are following the law. And the idea that it's okay to think that you can impede them. And I think that officers need to use restraint, but when it comes time to use force, they need to use force to protect themselves and the people they work with and the public. And once again, just be able to articulate why they did what they did.
Yeah, I watched one particular YouTube exchange where, there were two self-defense lawyers debating this, and they were breaking it down, the video down frame by frame, and the shots seemed to be fired. They said there were 3 shots, and they occurred roughly 3/10 of a second apart. You add that up, and that's under a second. And I know
Absolutely.
from, training on the gun range, man, you can easily fire 5 rounds in a second. And what I've noticed is that when you get under stress, once you start shooting, it's difficult to stop shooting because it's like the momentum is there, and boom, 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 and it's like, oh, 5, 6 shots are already gone. And because it was like a second or a second and a half elapsed time, that's not much time at all. And there's no time to shoot, reevaluate, shoot, reevaluate. It's just totally stress driven. Again, stress is a wild card. Stress changes everything. Talk a little bit about stress and how that affects the officers or anyone's ability in a self-defense incident.
Once again, stress is the big game changer. It's easy to sit on a range and draw your weapon without any kind of stress at your own pace and fire off rounds. But that was definitely a quick reaction. Officers are trained to shoot to stop. Once again, once the threat wasn't there, he did not fire anymore. But it's one of the other things, kind of from this tactical standpoint, it's one of the reasons I've always pushed when you've been involved in a gun battle to think about those combat reloads, because counting rounds is not a realistic situation in those cases. Like you said, people just pull the trigger until the situation's diffused is kind of the idea. But definitely adrenaline is going to kick in. It's a natural fight or flight response. His reaction was first to get out of the way, but then in the meantime, he's drawing his weapon, trying to acquire a target. Like I said, I've heard people talk about because he's been dragged, there could have been concern about other officers being dragged. She never took this vehicle out of drive. She went into reverse, then went into forward. So it's one of those things where we have to do our best to try to control that adrenaline, but you also have to make friends with the fact that it's going to happen, and you have to learn to live with that adrenaline rush as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that this is the women's action that was politically motivated, and I think the desire by, examples would be the mayor of Minneapolis and Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. It's totally politically driven because there is a political aspect to deadly force. I mean, we've seen that in prior shootings where, you shoot the wrong person and you end up in court based on the politics or the optics. Optics. I mean, that justice is supposed to be blind, but when you talk about something like this, the people who want to put you in jail are going to, make it look really, really bad. And that's something that I think would be very difficult to defend against in court because you'll never be able to recreate what that officer was feeling and experiencing in court the way he did out in the field.
Very true. And it's the legal standard is supposed to be based on what a reasonable officer would do under the circumstances, based on from the mindset of other officers considering that, not the general public or people who have no idea of what they're talking about. Once again, some of the comments by the mayor and the governor and other people for political reasons, and they're using this woman as a pawn. They really, I don't believe they care anything about her. It's just that this is politically expedient, and they're wanting to muddy the waters in case this ever goes to court. There's a lot of game playing going on. The rhetoric, it's one of those things along that where you've got people that are constantly using the word, calling people Nazis, and I really suggest these people go out and read a book about the Nazis and what really happened, because but that's done to cause violence, and there's no doubt in my mind on this. And we've gotten to a point where it is not okay to interfere with what law enforcement officers are doing. It's not okay to go hands-on. Not okay to attack them, throw things at them, hit them. They can defend themselves just like the public. And some people don't like that, and they think that they're supposed to be punching bags, but that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I refereed the high school and college soccer for about 15 years. And I can tell you there is that when you are like the lone, authority there, boy, you are the target. And anytime you do something, half the people there are going to disagree with you, and they're going to be angry, and they're looking for a scapegoat. They're looking for someone to blame, someone to yell at and scream at, and all of that. That's just the reality of the situation. But I think one of the things that these people are trying to do is they're trying to normalize resisting police officers and obstructing justice. That and the other thing was federal agents have no place in the cities. And talk about those two things for a second.
I think it goes along with, like I was saying about, using the term Nazis and fascists. You're trying to honestly brainwash or propagandize people into thinking that they are the enemy of the state. And what I really find amazing about that is I'm seeing some of the people that they're arresting out of these situations that are for violent crimes, for sexual crimes, child sex crimes. And I'm really it's really difficult for me to wrap my head around why anybody's saying, hey, whatever you do, don't take the child molesters out of my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I really don't understand this at all, but it's trying, as I said, that's that words matter. And when you call people Nazis and fascists, because, that's that horrible thing, it becomes easier or mindset wise to attack people that you think are Nazis and fascists because you think you're stopping this horrible thing happening. And I always, this is me personally, but I would always want to ask many of these people screaming at ICE, how many MS-13 and how many Tren de Agua gang members are living in their house right now? I mean, that's always a question I have as well. So
Yeah, I've never been able to wrap my head around that either. Why would you not want child molesters off the streets?
yeah.
You put politics ahead of the well-being, the health of, a 3 or 4 year old child. That's immoral in my way of thinking. So I do not understand that. I'm not sure I want to understand it. If I
Yeah,
understood it, I
great.
might be just like them. So I don't I don't even want to give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. So is this particular incident, and there are many like that are happening all over the country, is this an incident that maybe your organization can use to better train officers across the country?
It's interesting you asked that because I've already wanting to incorporate this incident into our felony high risk car stop class. That's one of the few classes. Most of our are very hands on, but we have actually a little PowerPoint presentation, and that's something I wanted to once again remind officers about the not about the incident itself, but about positioning yourself, where you should never put yourself in a position where you could be hit by the vehicle. We're losing officers every year to being hit intentionally by vehicles. One of the things we talk about at that class is deploying road spikes. And last year we lost, I believe it was 3 officers deploying road spikes. And it's something I wanted to talk about is if you can't do that from 100% position of safety, don't do it at all, because it's not going to stop the vehicle. It's going to at best slow it down. And I think we have to have that tactical mindset of where is when I can, where is a safe position for me to be where I'm not in harm's way. And part of that is what we kind of hit on earlier, is not let your emotions get the best of you and getting overwhelmed by the situation where you're just seeing red and getting up and to put yourself in danger. So it's definitely something we're going to add to that conversation. And just in general, of trying to slow things down when you can. Don't let your emotions get the best of you, and try to think tactically. And that's a hard thing to do. It's something you have to work at. And sometimes it might take, if you and I are out there, maybe I'm getting out of control, maybe you grab me by the short sleeve and say, hey, we need to calm down and have a better approach to this and let reason take over. We need to check each other sometimes as law enforcement officers.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. Well, Mike, we're about out of time now. There's other things we'll talk about at another time. But before you go, will you please tell people again how they can get a hold of you and your organization and find out more?
Appreciate that, Skip. We're at usdeputy.org is our website. Please check us out. You can contact me through that. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter. We have some videos, some training on there as well, but some information about tactics and many of the things we're doing around the country. And always encourage any law enforcement agency who's looking for assistance, whether through training or through our safety equipment grants or anything, to please take advantage of it. It's usdeputy.org. And also keep in mind that the name is a little misleading. We do help city, county, state, and federal law enforcement. We also work with U.S. military law enforcement. So we want to be a asset to our law enforcement community.
Awesome. All right. Well, Mike, thank you very much for being on Home Defense Show today.
Thanks for having me on, Skip. Take care.
All right. This is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Coming up next, we'll be speaking with self-defense instructor Marty Martin from the great state of Florida and the shootingclasses.com self-defense report. But during the break, I want you to log into rumble.com and search on the Home Defense Show. I've posted a series of entertaining and educational videos there just for you. Check them out and don't forget to like, share, and follow. God bless and stay safe, because we will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
Attention business owners. Are you leaving your website open to security issues and hacking due to a lack of maintenance or overseas outsourcing? Don't let that happen to your business. Choose experienced U.S.-based website developers that can customize your website to fit your specific needs. Appletree MediaWorks has been growing businesses online since 2009. With over 80 years of combined experience, their team conducts constant research and development to keep up with ever-changing online threats. Your website deserves the best protection available. Call Appletree MediaWorks today at 877-977-1364 to keep your website secure and grow your business online. Or visit appletree.media.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.